Are you in the market for a pan tilt camera with local storage and 2K video? Then you're in the right place. Hello, I'm Wanderer001 and let's get this review started after a quick disclaimer. TP-Link did reach out to me and provide me with the Tapo Pan Tilt camera for the purposes of doing an unbiased review, and that's what you're going to get. I have reviewed several pan tilt cameras in the past, and Tapo is just one of the newest that I have had the opportunity to review. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Tapo, this is actually a new brand to the US for TP-Link. You probably are more familiar with the TP-Link Casa branding. What you're looking at here is reasonably small for what you're getting form factor wise. It's just shy of being 3 inches tall, so it sits in places where you couldn't get other pan tilt cameras. Right here we have where all of the action actually happens in the Tapo here. This is the housing for the camera ball itself. At the top here you have a LED status light that's going to let you know when the Tapo is on and actively recording. My recommendation would be to leave this on, even if you have the option to turn it off, which you do in the application. We'll talk about that a little later, but there are some features which would require you, in my opinion, to leave that on. Just food for thought. Coming down, we have the lens for the Tapo. This is a 2304 by 1296 aspect ratio with 114 degrees vertical view and 360 degrees horizontal because, well, the whole thing can turn. And this lens is also how you're getting that 2K quality. On either side of the lens, there are 2 IR lights, bringing this to a total of 4. The IR lights are kind of stacked one next to each other, so rather than some cameras that have them in the corners or spread out a little more, Tapo here on their pan tilt have it lined up across the lens. Coming under that, we have our microphone, and if we roll the camera back, you have access to your micro SD card slot, which supports up to a 256 gigabyte SD card. Having tested other pan tilt cameras, I will say this is one of the higher available micro SD card compatibilities that you can have. There's only one other one that I've tested that has had the ability to have something that high. And then right there you have your reset button. Now, you do notice that I had to roll the camera lens back in order to access that. So in some cases, it's a bit confusing if you don't know to look there, but it also means if anybody happens to be looking at your camera, they won't know where there's local storage, or if it has local storage. One of the things I want to talk about with this lens is notice how large this cutout is. And compared to any other camera that I've tested, this actually has the lowest field of view than I've ever tested. Because of this large cutout, you can actually aim the Tapo camera lens down very far. And since we're still talking about our camera lens area here, those IR lights have a range of 30 feet. If you are worried about your locally stored clips on your SD card, you don't have to be because they are encrypted. And if you place a 256 gigabyte card in here, you'll have more than enough room for all of those clips that you'll be recording, even if they are in 2K. Coming down, really there's nothing else to look at in the front. They have like this little skirt, I'm gonna call it. And this skirt, in my opinion, is kind of good because in a lot of other pan tilt cameras, when you try and grab the bottom, well, because it rotates, you're grabbing onto something that's rotating. With this, the rotation portion is under this skirt. So you've got a lot of room to grab onto and spin this around. Because, let's take a look at the back. Right here, we've got our speaker for our two-way communication. Underneath the skirt and on our portion that rotates, you have your power supply right there, and then we'll flip it over, and right here we have 3 rubber feeties to help keep this in place, as well as a channel for the included mounting plate should you wish to mount this and not just have it placed. Now, you can mount this upside down and flip your video so that you will get video in the correct format, or you can simply mount this into a location that you're worried about maybe it gets hit and topples over on you. But as you can see, because of that wide footing, you really don't have to worry about that. Now, there's a lot that this camera can do, but it's a paperweight unless you actually set it up. You will need to have the Tapo app in order to set this up, but aside from that, setup is really simple. So let's take a look at the setup. This is setup of the TP-Link Tapo Pan Tilt camera. First things first, you're going to make sure that you download the Tapo app from TP-Link, which is different than the Casa app. However, the Casa app login information will work with the TP-Link Tapo since it is the same company. If you already have a device installed on your application, you'll see it right there, but we need to install a new one. So we're going to come up to the upper right hand corner here, press the plus sign with the circle, and then look for our camera. We're going to select that. And next we have to plug it in. So we're going to take our power cable, which I have off camera and already plugged in. We're going to drop it right there. And we have this set up so that the lens is facing forward so that we can see the light right there. And we're just going to let it sit there and wait for it to blink. It says it can take up to 30 seconds to actually do. So just be mindful of that and be patient as it situates itself. And there we go. It's blinking. We will select next, and it wants to turn on location. We're going to enable. In my case, I'm only going to do it this time for the setup. And there we can see it's kind of spinning around, and we're going to wait for it to come back. And now we can see it is turning red and green as it finishes its 360 motor check. We'll wait for it to finish, come back to center. Oh, that's doing all sorts of checking here. All right, so it's choosing to be in its actual position. We're going to select next because it did everything that it needed to do. We're going to connect to the Wi-Fi network that this is creating so that they can talk to each other. So in my case, I've done this once before. My phone does not particularly care for the fact that this is a Wi-Fi network that does not allow you to access the internet. So it kind of prevents me from accessing it. You'll notice right up here it says LTE. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop into my Wi-Fi networks, find the one right here for this, and then we're going to wait and make sure that when I connect to it, I get a warning. It says does not provide internet, and there we go. I get a warning right here. I click on this, and then I say yes, it's fine, and then we're going to try again. So next, and there I can see, I know it's connected to it, has an exclamation point letting me know that there's no actual internet access with this particular Wi-Fi network that I've joined. And there we go. Also, since I set this up before, it already knows what network I want to put it on, as well as the password, since I saved it from last time. Still don't like the fact that it shows you in plain text the actual network credentials. Wish that wouldn't do that. After that, it will connect to our network, and we should hear the camera actually say connecting. And there we go. Maybe you missed it. It said connecting to Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi connected.
Wi-Fi connected if you didn't hear it. And a ding to let us know it's done. I got an Alex A notification letting me know that this was attached to it since I've already set up the integration for Alex A and it. Now, this is the one thing that I don't like with the setup process. Even though it's connected, this screen just kind of keeps going and it's done. We don't have to sit through this. So if we come up here and select the X, yes, we're going to exit, but right there, we can see our new Tapo camera. And if we select that, welcome to, we're going to go, kind of letting you know what you can do with it, and then select got it. And we're going to shift that right over there so that we do not see me in frame, but we're going to give that a moment. And there we go. It is connected. All right, so that was the setup of the TP-Link Tapo Pan Tilt indoor camera. As you saw, setup for the Tapo Pan Tilt, very simple to do, but there's also some other things that come with the Pan Tilt here to make it more useful for you, such as a mounting plate sticker to help mount the included plate with screws and wall anchors. I kind of like these stickers. They make it a little easier than having to hold the plate up and marking it down. So having something like that included, very good. So there's your mounting options. And then obviously you have your power supply. It is a little chunky depending on where you're trying to get this. However, I will say they do give you quite a decent amount of cableage for this device. So even if your power outlet's a little far away from where you'd like to place this, you shouldn't have any problems really. So good on TP-Link for providing you with enough cable. The Tapo Pan Tilt here is a Wi-Fi security camera. So in order to use this, it will have to be connected to Wi-Fi as you saw during the setup process. It can only be attached to the 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi spectrum. That is going to give you further range, less speeds. However, in all of my testing with all other Pan Tilt cameras, I've never had a problem, even the 2K variety, with them on the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum. You want that because you want to be able to place this as far away from your Wi-Fi access point as you can. Not everybody has the ability to place this right next to their Wi-Fi access point. So 2.4 gigahertz is not going to be a problem for what you're getting this for. But there's a lot of other things that this camera does that separates it from others that I've tested. In order to access all of those features, you're going to use the Tapo app. So let's take a look at what the Tapo app can let you do with the Tapo Pan Tilt. This is the application for the Tapo Pan Tilt home security camera. As you can see here, it will list out all of your other Tapo cameras, but keep in mind, just as I've mentioned in several videos before, the cameras themselves will only list themselves as Tapo camera. You will have to go in after the fact and rename them. Keep that in mind, especially if you're doing multiple cameras at once and you don't notice, which is what I did, and then had to unplug them to figure out which one was which. Right here we have in the upper left hand corner, it indicates that I have 3 cameras. Selecting that will allow me to see all of my cameras. Notice they're not currently in live mode, they're merely showing you a snapshot, but we can from here set a home mode or an away mode, and that's a quick detection setting that you can do right from here. Now, upper right hand corner, plus sign, that's how we add more devices, and then next to that we have the envelope with the red dot, and that's just merely indicating, hey, there's stuff that's been going on. In my case, there's been a lot of me in the living room downstairs. If you come up here to the notifications area, selecting that will let you know if Tapo has found somebody. Selecting the notification will allow you to take a screenshot, turn on and off the volume, but also, more importantly, download, which will add it to your memories. So if Tapo automatically detects somebody and sends you a notification about it, you can download it rather than having to do the other steps that we'll talk about later. What we're going to do now is we're going to select our individual camera right here, and then we're going to give that a chance to load up, and right there that is a live feed of my living room. You might see a robot vacuum going through there occasionally. Right over here, this grid-like icon, simply tapping that will bring us into a multiple view of our Tapo cameras. Now you notice this one, I haven't set one up yet, so let's put one here. If I select that, I can pick any of my Tapo cameras, and I'm going to say okay. So what we have now are 2 simultaneous live feeds from my camera. We can also go back to our single mode right here, which will bring it right here. This is our single mode, and then swiping, we can add individual cameras. Again, I'll add my Tapo outdoor right there, and then we can swipe through our individual cameras if we don't want to see them in this overall grid. And I do like the grid in the fact that it is all your cameras all in one place, all live feed. We're going to turn that off momentarily because we're going to talk about what we can do for the pan tilt. To the right of that, we have an icon that looks like a camera. That is actually to take a still snapshot of whatever it sees. You've got your record, which will allow you to record a video of exactly what you're looking at. More on that a little later. And then right here we have our volume control. So camera, microphone. Notice I have that kind of all the way up. We can scale that back and it'll let you know, hey, what's a good zone that this should probably be in. And I'm going to tap off of that. Here we have the expand. Doing that will, again, automatically throw your camera into full screen mode here, and then you have access to all of your controls right over there. Now you can swipe through your cameras here, but you'll notice that you can't swipe to your grid. You can come down to the right though and select your grid, and then you'll see a live feed of all of your cameras. First icon we have is talk. Selecting this will allow you to talk from the camera. So here we would hold and start talking, and my cats downstairs would hear me if they were paying attention and not trying to get food. Now, one of the things I do like about this is right from here we can select our settings and we can adjust our camera's microphone as well as our camera speaker right from this location. I do like the fact that that's there. Now we do have access to our pan tilt controls right here, and then again set how many degrees the camera will move. So by default it's set at 10, but you can change it to 5 and 15. That will dramatically change the swivel. Now you'll notice right there, there's a cat. I got a notification that it has detected motion. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you. That's the current rotation. Now if I do 15 degrees, just giving you an idea what that looks like, and then down to 5 degrees. So you notice that barely moves at all. So inches, and then we'll go all the way up to max, just to give you an idea. So you really see how much that moves based on individual settings there. Now I'm going to shrink this back down because while those were the pan tilt controls, those were the pan tilt controls from the talk location. You might have seen when I come in here, you get more pan tilt controls. So aside from the ability to move the camera left, right, up and down, we have settings here where we can, again, change the degrees, but we also have horizontal cruise, vertical cruise, and mark positions. So what that does is if I select vertical cruise, what that will do is that will cruise the camera lens up and down, and then I can say, wait, stop, I want to stay here. Same thing with horizontal cruise, selecting that will tilt and rotate, and I can tell it stop right there. Now, right here we have our mark position. So if we want to mark a specific position, we're going to call this position 3. I'm going to save that because the other option right here is marks. So let's say I want to bring it back to my default mark position, meaning, hey, I want to get to something really quick without having to adjust the camera. That's a really weird angle. Well, guess what? Mark position 2 automatically will snap the camera down to a position that I have labeled that is on the XY axis. So again, if I bring it up, that's the one we did for position 3. There we go. Want to bring it down to what I call my main home set, which is right here, position 1. And there we go. It locks it in. The positionings are actually a really cool thing that I haven't seen on a lot of other cameras. And then again, if we wanted to, we can mark a position right here. So we can do it from the pan tilt by selecting mark, or right here from mark. To the right of that, we have our voice call. Voice call is kind of like talking through it, but you've got options where you can speaker on and off, mic on and off, and then hang up the call. It's an interesting feature, not entirely sure what it does differently. Again, we have our mic and audio controls, and then again, we always have access to this pan tilt no matter what menu we are on. Right here we have our privacy mode. Selecting this will actually turn the camera into privacy mode, meaning that you will not be able to see anything and the camera will not record anything while it is in this mode. The one problem with this mode, with the pan tilt, in my opinion, is the camera lens does not actually rotate itself back. It simply turns off the light on the front saying, hey, I am not recording anything anymore, which is also why you want to make sure that you leave the LED status light on for this so that you always know, hey, it's recording. Right here we have our alarm sound. We can sound that on and off, turn that off. Tapo Care. This is going to be their monthly subscription service. You need to have the subscription only if you want unlimited cloud storage, exclusive AI events, mostly baby crying, rich notifications, which is if you want to receive a notification that is more than just a text saying, hey, you got something you should be looking at. Custom privacy zones, this is actually an interesting one. We'll get into that a little later. And then motion tracking, this is an important one for your actual camera. Because if you've got one that pan tilts, you want this because it will track your person. And then down here you've got monthly and then yearly subscription. We're gonna go back because we're still operating on the 30-day free trial. Right here we have our playback in memory. We'll let that boot up, but we'll go into our playback in memory. Right here, one of the things that I like about the timeline is you'll notice that if I pinch to zoom, it has different colors. These different colors indicate different things. Orange is just a basic movement, while green indicates a person. Now, it is not 100%. As you can see, that is not a person, and I do not end up showing up in this shot at all, but it is pretty decent in that you can rely on it to most of the time tell you if there's a person. Now, if you need to go to a past date, simply select the back button or tap the middle and everything in blue will let you know, hey, there's something that you can go back and watch. That was our playbacks. Now, our memories over here are anything that we have manually recorded from that front page. Or if we come into our playbacks, one of the biggest things that I have against Tapo and their app here is that, well, guess what? I have all of these events, but there's press and hold. There's no way to actually download that to your phone. You have to record the event so that it ends up in your memories. In fact, we'll do this really quick. I will select, where is this one? We'll do this one because it's a cat. I'm gonna record that. We're gonna watch the cat roll through. Yeah, he's looking for the food. I'm gonna stop that. And what happens now is that gets saved over to our memories, which will then allow us to select and download. It is a really backwards way of downloading something from the phone that it has recorded to the device. I wish they didn't do that. They need to improve that, in my opinion. Right here we have our cloud videos. Again, only if you have the Tapo Care. Selecting that, you will see your cloud videos. And then another place to access Tapo Care. That's everything we can do for the basic navigation and controls of the camera. Now let's come up to our icons up here? Well, we've got our auto. This indicates day-night mode, so I can swap it over to night mode if I manually want to switch it over to night mode. We'll swipe that out of the way, which will then turn on our IR lights and drop the night lens in front. To the right of that, we have our settings, or our sprocket right here. This brings us into the configuration and settings for the Tapo Pan tilt. Change the name of our Tapo. It'll give us some other information, network, Wi-Fi, all that fun stuff. Here we have our icon and location. Selecting that will allow us to change the icon if we want to make this a little easier to differentiate from the other cameras, as well as we can set a home location. Time zone, self-explanatory. Here you can see we have our Tapo free trial. I've got 22 more days of my free trial. We have invert image. So if you happen to be mounting this upside down, this will allow you to actually correct the image so that you can actually see what's going on. Here we have our LED status light. Again, leave that on, especially if you're going to be using privacy mode for whatever reason. Here we have privacy zones, again, only available with Tapo Care, but if I turn on my privacy zone, what this will allow me to do is set up a privacy zone. So I will add a zone and I will say right over here, couch where I normally hang out. I don't want that to be visible or recorded. I select OK, and right there, it puts a black thing over the couch. Nobody can see, nobody can record. It's a very interesting feature, and it's a shame that they kind of put that behind the Tapo Care or the subscription model, but I can see why they do it. We've got our detections and alerts. Selecting this, we've got motion detection on, and here we have a toggle for on-off, the sensitivity, and then if we wanted to set up any active zone. So if I didn't want to grab the entirety of my living room, let's say I just want a specific zone, I can, right there, I only care about that. And I can always add another zone, right there, or that zone, or that zone. You can see, you can have a bunch of these. This is really cool. There are some other cameras that only allow you to have singular, or maybe up to 2 zones. This one, you saw, I was going nuts. Now we have our AI detection. I have person detection on, and just like you might imagine, it's looking for a person. Don't have baby detection because, well, don't have a baby in the house to test that with. Now we've got our active notifications. So I've got activity notifications, rich notifications, again, only available with the paid subscription. And then send me notifications when, always, or customize. You can customize everything from a specific time to day right here. Here we have our camera alarm. Currently it is off. If I toggle that on, I can select alarm type, lights or sound. So rather than manually triggering, you could have it trigger itself, alarm, siren, or tone, all day, or custom schedule, just like you saw before. And then right here, we have motion tracking. If I come in and turn motion tracking on, what that will do is actively follow a target. Again, keep in mind this is only available with the subscription for the Pan Tilt. Next we have micro SD card. It's letting me know it's good. I can format it. I can turn off loop recording, which is something nice that they add, and that you can, if you don't want to have the oldest recording overwritten, you can always turn that off, remove the SD card, and put a new one in. It's a nice feature. Not a lot of people are going to use it, but it's good that it's there. Micro SD card recording, toggle on and off, as you might imagine. Do you want to? Got to turn that on. Recording schedule. We can come in here right now, detection recording. I can edit and say, well, here, I want continuous recording. And then you can just swipe, and these are the time blocks that you could do. So to save on space, you can always do selected recordings, or you can record continuously. It's up to you and what you need it for. Here we have our record quality. You've got your 3MP, you got your 1080p, and then you got your 720p, which is labeled as data saving, but it still counts as HD. I've been trying out the 3MP, which is the maximum that you can do, and it does get you that type of image that you would expect from that quality. However, again, it's going to use more data on the card and your bandwidth. Here we've got advanced settings. So here we have camera account. You can create an account just to lock this camera. You've got record audio on or off. Some places you can't record audio. You've got on-screen display settings. So right here, do you want to have the date and time? Do you want to have display text? Do you want to have the logo? Display text is nice because, well, you can actually change what that display text says. So if you are working for a company and you want to have the company's name there so you know what it is, you can do that through there. Privacy mode on or off, we talked about that previously. Power line frequency, set it for auto. You have the option for 50 Hertz or 60 Hertz, but don't mess with that unless you know what you're doing. You've got your diagnostics, and then pan tilt correction. So what this will do is send it back to its default or true center position. And then you've got share the device. They will need their own Tapo account in order to share. Then you have auto reboot. Sometimes you need to reboot your device. I haven't had to, but if you want to set that up on a schedule, you could do that there. And then we can manually reboot the camera or remove the camera from our particular app. Now I'm going to go back one more time to our Tapo main page here for the pan tilt because I want to show you the zoom. Double tapping zooms it in all the way. It's the one thing with Tapo when it comes to utilizing their superior zoom that I really wish they didn't do, because I want to be able to tap tap, bring me in partially, tap tap, bring me in closer. Don't just tap tap and zoom in. I mean, because now I have to reposition. It just seems like it's something that's a little quirky but could be fixed in firmware in the future. Now that's everything that we can do with the Tapo pan tilt. But what we're going to do is come back to our main page here very briefly to talk about some of the other settings that you have within the Tapo app. We were on our home. That's where we access all of our cameras. We've got smart actions, which will allow you to do specific actions based on, hey, if I'm leaving home, if I arrive at home, am I going to bed? Do I want to turn something on or off via sunset? You can do all of that. From here, you can create shortcuts, you can create automations, you can add stuff up here. Do you want to add a shortcut? Do you want to add an automation? This is very useful with the routines, especially if you're coming home and you want all of your cameras to go into privacy mode so they're not looking at you. This is where you could do that. Now, down here at the bottom to the right of Smart Actions is our account. Right here we can see our camera memory. Selecting that shows us all of our cameras and all of our memories. Here we have our cloud videos. Again, you can select which ones you want, but this is an aggregated area to bring all of that stuff together. Third-party licenses, just like it sounds. Device sharing, if you want to share multiple devices in a singular location, this is how you can do it. Firmware update, it's going to check, do you have any firmware? You don't, that's fine. Notifications, as you might imagine, hey, tell me promotional messages, firmware updates, or micro SD card status. Those are the types of messages that can be pushed to you. Tapo Care, again, this is another place that you can access it. Don't really need to because it's on every other page. Camera preferences, selecting this will allow you to, hey, do you want a live tag? That's what it does with a live tag. Speed tag, right there, shows you the speed. I like that they give you this visual image to let you know exactly what you're looking at. Coming back, vibration, on or off, again for notifications. Help and feedback, tell them right there what you need help with, and then about, that's gonna be overall your account, so I'm not gonna go into that. And then we're gonna come back to our main homepage because that has been the application for the Tapo Pan Tilt Home Security Wi-Fi camera. As you saw, there are a lot, and I mean a lot of things that you can do with this. And that application, I was very surprised, again, because Tapo is not a company that I've heard of really in the US before. It was much more robust than I thought I was gonna get with something like this. But there are some other things that we have to consider with the hardware, such as, well, you can do two-way audio, there's a speaker back there, how does it sound? Also, hey, there's some movement that happens for the base, for the lens. What does that sound like? Are people gonna notice if I'm rotating the camera around? Let's take a listen to an audio sample of both the speaker and the motors.
Tapo Pan Tilt video test. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. Test 1, test 2, test 3, and test.
Movement test for sound. So all in all, not too bad. The motors actually were very quiet compared to some others that I've tested, so that was a pleasant surprise. Another thing to consider is video quality. Well, for the Tapo, I will link those out in the corner there so that you can see the video clips that I took for this in all of their 2K glory. There will be plenty of different lighting scenarios and motion tracking, which is part of the paid fee, but I wanted to show you what that looked like just in case you wanted to pay the subscription fee for that particular feature. What I will admit, with the motion tracking, I do like the fact that it both moves left to right, but also pans the lens up so you can kind of see, hey, this is the person that's causing this movement. A lot of other ones don't do that. So I really like the fact that even though it's part of the subscription model, that the Tapo Pan Tilt has that. And another thought, with the IR setup being as flat as it is, I was actually very surprised at the nighttime image quality that you get with the IR lights. Normally, again, I'm used to having them more spread out, but even with them lined up straight across, night vision looks great. Again, over there in the corner, check those out. Something else that you might not have considered because, well, you just read it on the box is power consumption. If you're getting a smart home device, it's going to consume power. And stated power use, always good, but I like to throw in actual power usages. So when the camera is idling, meaning you're not doing anything with it, it uses 1.9 watts of power. During nighttime, meaning those IR lights are on, it uses 2.8 watts of power. Now, what about if you're rotating this around or you have it turned on to track people as they're going by? Well, during the daytime, that's going to use 3.9 watts of power, and at night, that will jump up to 4.9 watts of power. Now, that 4.9 is a little on the high side. However, you're not going to be doing it all that often, so it's not something to really concern yourself with. That 1.9 watts of power for idling during the daytime is going to be what you're using most of the time. Even that 2.8 is nothing to really write home about. It's about standard what you'd get from something like this. Now, for those of you who are in the Alexa or Google Home voice assistant universes and have a smart screen, Tapo here is compatible with both, so you can actually trigger your video feed to those devices if you have them. Last thing to consider with a smart home device of any kind is going to be pricing. Now, the Tapo, which I thought was going to be more of a lower end consumer brand, is not that. It sits about where you'd expect a pan tilt camera to be. It is not the most expensive one out there, but it is also not the cheapest. So this sits right in the middle of what you'd be expecting to pay. And I'm gonna say, with all of those features that you get, even if you're not paying for the subscription, I was pleasantly surprised with what I considered an unknown brand to myself. If you are in the market for a pan tilt camera that has 2K, person detection, local storage, and a small form factor, I recommend checking out the TP-Link Tapo Pan tilt here. With that being said, I have been Wanderer001. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the area below. And as always, thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, consider giving it a like, as that will help other people find the video as well. If you like what I'm doing here, you can always help fuel the next review by buying me a coffee, link in the description below. Last but not least, if you want to be notified when I upload a new video, you know what to do.